What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Everyone's having a great day today. So today's video, we're going to do a fun little Q&A session. I did this a few months ago, but I thought I'd bring it back once again for you guys on this wonderful Friday. So today I am going to be answering your questions that I asked you guys over on Instagram, that you guys asked me over on Instagram, as well as the one question that was over on YouTube. So I think really I should save all of the talking for the actual questions and answers. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with our Instagram questions. Let's get right into it. All right, guys, so we're over here on Instagram to answer you guys' questions like I talked about at the beginning of the video. So let's get right into them. We're going to start off with our first question here, which is from Hannah_Payt, who asks, would you recommend the 5.0 swap from the 01 Explorer with a performance cam put in it? So first off, I hope you have some deep pockets because that sounds like an expensive swap. The 5.0 Windsor, while it is by far the easiest to swap, unless you're okay with putting a 250,000 mile Windsor in there, you better have some deep pockets because Windsor rebuilds are becoming few and far between these days because they're aging out, because they're getting old. But by far, it is the best swap you can do to a sport track outside of if you can stomach the thought of putting a Chevy motor in one, an LS. And I would highly recommend it to people who are looking to do a cheaper engine swap on these trucks. That is more common and is probably by far the easiest swap to do on these trucks. But the reason I say it's going to cost a lot, one, if you want the engine to be a fresh, if you want a fresh 5.0 with a cam in it, you're gonna be doing a lot of work getting an engine rebuilt, getting the block honed and ready to go, stuff like that. But my recommendation, if you're gonna do it, get a donor vehicle. Don't just buy the engine and have it there. Get a full car. Obviously something that's not functional. Don't buy a mint condition 2001 Eddie Bauer 5.0 4-wheel drive. Get something that's a bit beat up. Get something that's get something like an $800 one that's just happens to have the engine and transmission in it, and then yank it out, get all the parts you need out of it, and put it in the sport track, which is the best way to go about it. It's what most people do when they do a 5.0 swap. They'll usually buy a halfway dead 5.0 Windsor Explorer, and by that I mean everything but the engine and transmission's dead, and they'll just pop it in and use all the parts, because I believe there's some small stuff like AC and stuff like that doesn't immediately transfer over between the two. You'll need to adapt the Windsor's AC lines to the 4.0, the sport track engine bay area thing, whatever. So it's definitely tedious, as most engine swaps are, but it is by far the easiest one. But I would totally recommend it. If you have the money for it and you have the time to spend doing it, absolutely. Especially with a cam, that'll make the 5.0 Windsor not a dog, because they're kind of sluggish from the factory. Torque-wise, it blows the 4 out of water, but it makes the exact same horsepower and weighs a lot more. So be prepared to handle that with a cam, because it will definitely make it a lot better. So speaking of engine swaps, we're going to move on to our next Instagram question, which is Marukomo_2.5, who asked, what do you have to do to fit a 4.6 out of a Vic into the track? Now, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it's not possible. The modular family of engines, which includes the 4.6 2-valve, which is what the Vic uses, as well as the 4-valve, the Coyote, the 5.4s out of the GT500s, the Terminator engines, it's not going to fit. They are just too wide for a Gen 1 body, and that is the worst part about it. Is just, the Gen 1 Sport Track and the 03 Explorers, that era, they just don't match up. They're completely different cars. So nothing transfers between the two. So that's one thing you have to just know ahead of time, is that any modular family engine, like the 2-valve, isn't going to fit in the sport track, unless, you happen to have a Gen 2. But in that case, why don't you just buy one that had a 3-valve to begin with? Like I said, the best engine swaps to do are compact engines, something like the Windsor or the LS, because those wide engines like single cam V8s and dual cam V8s and whatever, they're not going to fit in how narrow the sport track's engine bay is. Sure, it probably doesn't make sense because the 4.0 itself is single overhead cam, but the modular family engines are 90 degree while the 4.0 is 60 degree. So that is the big issue, is just the modular family is just too wide. You'll need something small like a Windsor, an LS, a 2J, something of that nature. I say the 2J is small. It's actually a kind of large engine, but it fits for some reason. So yeah, unfortunately, the only way to fit a 4.6 in there is to convert the entire front end to tubular. And at that point, if you're doing it just to fit a 2-valve in there, why not just go ahead and slap a 4-valve or a Coyote at that point? Because if you tub out the front end, you can fit a Coyote in there. And that's much better engine than the two valve. I hate to say it, the two valve's just kind of trash. So next up, we have Michael, who just asked E with a question mark. Now, for those who have not watched the channel forever, this has been a long-running inside joke between me and Michael. We've said it. We've commonly greeted each other as saying E. And usually the way we say it with the question mark is E, like, you're questioning it, So yeah, my response to that is E. Hayden asked, what are your favorite 3 cars that have came out in the past 5 years? And I'm going to pick one representative from each, big market in cars, America, Japan, and Europe. So for my American representative, I'm going to pick the C7 ZR1. But the 2020 GT500 and the ZL1 and the Demon and stuff like that are, right behind it. Because they're, all 3 of the big 3 put out a heck of a car. At least one of them has had a Halo car in the last couple of years that has been just an absolute monster. Dodge had the Demon, as well as the Red Eyes and stuff like that. And GM had the ZL1, the CTS-V, the ZR1, the Z06 even. And then Ford had the GT350 and GT500, which are both just spectacular cars. But my choice, my overall favorite from America that's come out in the past 5 is the ZR1. And then I put the GT500 and the Demon right behind it. From Japan, the question's easy. There really isn't any other choice than the Civic Type R. Every other car from Japan has been around for at least a decade. Toyota doesn't have any competition, really, to the Type R, even other cars like the GTR. Honestly, though, I say that, the Supra exists. That's how, unfortunately, forgettable the Mark V is just, I completely blanked and forgot it even existed, and the Supra is one of my favorite cars from Japan. My choice would be the Civic Type R, just because, to me, it offers more of a better experience than the Supra does, and that's probably just my manual fanboy kicking in. But I would put the Type R above the Mark V Supra right now. When those manual Mark Vs that are supposedly being prototyped in Japan come out here in the States, then it might be a bit of a competition. But really in Japan, those are the only 2 cars that really have stuck out in the past 5 years that I've really enjoyed, talking about is the Supra and the Type R. But the Type R edges it out just barely. From Europe, I'm going to pick pretty much the only choice I have from Europe, and that's the Golf R. Sure, we've had the facelifted R8, we've had, all of the cars from Europe, like the Huracan, the Aventador, and, all of Porsche's cars. But my favorite has always been the Golf R because it offers the best value, the best experience you can get for the price you're paying for it. The only thing that I would really say would be more fun than a Golf R would probably be some American muscle car like a Charger Scat Pack. You can get around the same price, and you're blowing the tires off and having a good time. The Golf R is just such an amazing car, and it is just a shoe-in for a car that if I were going to buy a European car for big money, it would have to be a Golf R. But yeah, those are my 3 favorite cars that came in the past 5 years. I really wanted to keep it one per country because, if I didn't do that, it would be a landslide for one of the countries. I'd have the Type R, the Supra, and then the ZR1 on there, something like that. But that's my answer to that one. So 4Truck Guy, who is very big on the streams, everyone in here, to my knowledge, everyone in here, you guys should go follow on Instagram. But 4Truck Guy in particular has been huge in the streams. Of course, I would say the same for Michael and Hayden as well, but they're literally part of the stream with me every week. 4Truck Guy, though, is a huge supporter, so I got to give him a good shout out for that. He asked me, if money was no object, what would be your absolute dream build? Now, people are probably going to go right away and be like, oh, he's going to pick a Supra, big turbo 2J. And that would be a solid choice. But I think my choice is actually going to be something, if money was no object, then I'm going to go big. I'm going to spend big money on a car we didn't even get here, and that was so exclusive. It was only made for a couple years, but the entire line of this car, this company's only made 2 models ever in its existence since 1999, and that would be the Pagani Zonda C12S 7.3. which was my dream car as a kid. I loved the Zonda, and I was so upset when I found out they were never sold here. 4 more years, the first Zondas will be, the first generation of the Zonda, the normal C12 will be legal here, which is kind of cool. If I had the money to import one, I would. But outside of that, I would not just leave it stock. This would be a crazy car. So what I would do is I would do a full twin turbo setup on this C12S Zonda, and throw some really nice wheels on it, some Vossens or something like that, HREs, expensive wheels, but with upgraded tires, very aggressive tires that can hold the power of a twin turbo 7.3 liter V12 down. So yeah, that's kind of my choice. If I wanted to go big, go for the ultimate car build, in my opinion, it would be a Zonda C12S 7.3 with twin turbo strapped to it. So for my last question here, which is also from another guy who's very big in the streams, that is Sport Track Guy underscore 427, who asked, will those Nerf bars look good on my whip? Still debating. What exactly is a Nerf bar? Hold on a second. I'm so out of tune with the truck community. Give me just a second here. Oh, okay. So I see what it is. So side steps. I've never heard side steps get called that before, so that is actually completely new information to me. Now, with side steps or Nerf bars, I don't view them as really a cosmetic upgrade. Like, I don't look at them and go, that truck's got some nice Nerf bars. But I look at them as like a very nice convenience feature, especially if you're vertically challenged like I am. It helps a lot with getting into the truck. And my recommendation, if you can swing it, if you got big money, get those power ones that like will hide underneath the car. That way when you open your doors, they'll pop down, you hop out, shut the door, whoop, right back up. It was like they were never there to begin with. But that's my choice. I would do the power, like Nerf bar kind of running board deal. But yeah, I wouldn't view it as really a cosmetic plus. But I would say if you're vertically challenged like I am, it's definitely the move to help get in. When mine was stock height, it would sometimes hurt to get in. And I've gotten in some tall trucks. It sucks. So definitely, if you're vertically challenged like I am and just don't like the stock height, or if yours is lifted, I'm not entirely sure if yours is or not, then totally do it. But yeah, those are all of our Instagram questions. So I'm going to show off our one YouTube question here. And yeah, that will wrap it up here. So let's get on over to YouTube. All right. So for our question from YouTube here is from Jason Gillis, who asked, does the steering feel loose on your Sport Track? I wouldn't necessarily say it feels loose. I would say vague. Sport Tracks, ironically enough, don't have sporty steering like the name would suggest. I mean, really nothing about a Sport Track is really all that sporty. It's a truck. Trucks aren't really that sporty in general. But the steering is more vague than it is loose. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of play in it, and as much as there's just not a lot of response. It feels tight. It just doesn't feel responsive. And that's really my issue with the Sport Track steering is it's just vague. Mine isn't loose at all. And if yours is, I would recommend looking into some front suspension stuff, control arms, steering rack, stuff like that. That could be a sign that something is not right there. But yeah, so that is all of our questions for today. I hope you all enjoyed just this quick little video, kind of just answering your questions. I'd originally intended to do the house tour today, but I got sidetracked and thought this would be a good idea instead. So here we are. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I shall see you guys next time on Monday with a brand new video. Take care, everyone.